Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Cree, and today, as you can see, I'm in a different location. I'm actually in my dorm room, and I'm starting my second week of college as we speak. But I wanted to come and talk today about how to write a good college essay. So, the college essay is probably, and you may have heard this, but it's one of the most important things for your college application and your profile, because colleges see hundreds of thousands, probably even millions of students at this point, and they see so many applications, and your essay is gonna wow them because all they see prior to your essay is your grades and your GPA, where you went, what school you went to, what clubs and organizations you were in. And after a while, I'm sure all the students start to kind of blend together. Of course, even if you got a 4.0 GPA and you're in tons of clubs and stuff, there's always someone else who has those same type of statistics or whatever. But no one is you. You are creative and you are different, and we all have our own special and unique capabilities, so writing is just a way to express that. Now, I don't feel personally like I'm the best writer in the world. It's not necessarily something that I do to express myself creatively. It's just not my thing, but I can do it academically, and so that's where I was having a lot of my trouble. I can do academic writing. I don't have a problem with academic writing. I can do research papers, and I can do book reviews, analysis and things like that, but I am not a creative writer. I don't do poetry. I just don't do stuff like that. So when I wrote my first college essay, and here is my first piece of advice: start early. Start early, like the summer prior to your senior year, or just the earliest you can possibly start. Look at possible prompts that you're going to get and write a first draft, because that's really important. But when I wrote my first draft, it was not that good. It was basically a copy and paste of my resume in essay format. So that's basically how that went, and of course I had people read over it and they're like, it's good, but you need to change a few things. So of course I didn't want to have people read my essay. I'm definitely, because I know I'm not a good creative writer, or I don't see myself as a good creative writer, I definitely did not want to have other people read my essay, because I was like, I don't know about it. But I knew if I really wanted a good shot of getting into the schools that I wanted to get into and just giving the schools my best work, I had to have other people read it and give me advice. So I let my family read it, I let family friends read it, I let all types of people read it. If you can even get your school teachers, if they're willing to read it, that would be great. Because after they read it, they were like, well, you really just listed stuff, and not that you didn't do a good job listing those things, but tell us more about you, not just what you already listed in your application and in your resume. Tell us about who you are and how you are creatively, what makes me me. Now that is a huge thing to ask of someone, and at my age, I'm writing this essay, I'm 17. I don't know who I am. I know who I am, I know what I value, but I don't know who I am. There is a difference. But that's what made things very difficult. Throughout high school, 3 years essentially, I went through it thinking I was going to major in finance, and the last year switched it and said, you know what, later I'm going to major in political science when I go to college. So of course, throughout high school, I had finance as my main, all my clubs were related to finance. So I didn't have anything debate related to my future major, what I was hoping that was going to be. So of course that was something that I struggled with mentally. I was like, okay, well, colleges are going to look at this and they're going to think, well, why are you majoring in political science? You haven't done anything related to this major. Why did you choose this? So of course I had to start expressing how I came to the point of changing my major and how I ended up selecting what I selected. So essentially my essay was me telling about how my journey was from the beginning of high school and what I thought I was going to be. Because way back in middle school, oh my gosh, way back then, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be an actress, ha ha ha. Because I was taking a lot of theater classes. And then I auditioned for this school that was like theater related, or it just performance arts related, and I didn't get in, and so I was sad. I was like, boo hoo, boo hoo. So I wrote that as like the start of my essay, and I was thinking, well, when I go to my regular high school, I'll still take theater. But then I found out that I loved finance, and I wanted to major in that instead, and I wanted to pursue that. So I decided to join all these clubs about finance and do all this stuff related to finance and this and that and the other. And so, you know, I just kind of briefly spoke about that, but then I transitioned into saying how, well, once I found out that it wasn't exactly how I expected, though keeping it on a positive note, because you always want to keep your essay on a positive note. You don't want to, like, put a negative spin, because that'll make you seem, A, like a negative person, and B, like, you can't handle the situations that you're in. And that's not what colleges want to see. They want to see people who are driven, and even when they're put in difficult situations, they are smart enough and strong enough and resilient enough to figure their way out or way around, or, you know, just work their own problems. So try and stay positive. That's another piece of advice that I'm kind of throwing in here as I talk about my essay journey. But yeah, so I was talking about that. I was like, oh, well, I wanted to do finance. But then when I found out it wasn't necessarily my forte, I didn't like it as much as I thought I would when I was actually put in a position where I had to control a club's finances, I realized that this isn't what I want to do with my life. This isn't what I want to do as a career. And I went through a little gray area where I was like, well, what do I want to do? I have a year before I graduate high school. I have a year before I start picking colleges. So what do I want to do at that time? What am I going to do when I get to college? So then this is a time when the pandemic hit, and a lot of the protests, the 2020 protests of like George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, all of the Black Lives Matter protests were coming up. And so this is where I was like, I've always enjoyed talking about social justice issues and, you know, social injustice, racial injustice, things like that. And I thought to myself, well, I could really do something in law. And that's when I kind of thought about becoming a civil rights attorney, which is where I'm at right now. And that's how I decided on the major political science, because I think it would fit best with both me and the major that I like to go into, or just, my future career plans that I like to pursue after graduating college. So my essay was essentially my journey into how I chose the major that I chose. And although I don't know if that's the best way to word it, because it wasn't like, well, once I did this and now I'm doing this, you know, because that's still a little like, you know, but it just explains the journey that I had and my growth and development as a person and as a student during this time. So basically, as a recap, my main pieces of advice were: start writing an essay as early as possible. Just a first draft, doesn't have to be anything fancy, just whatever you can get out on paper. My second piece was to have other people read over it and have them give you constructive criticism on how you can improve it. Now, some things they might tell you, and it might just be like stylistic choices as an artist. You can decide whether you want to include them or change your essay or not. But take that with a grain of salt. Listen to what people tell you. Don't just be like, well, I'm right and you're wrong. Everything you say is wrong. I know what I'm doing. Like, don't have them read it if you're not going to listen. But, you know, some things like smaller stuff that you want it to include, and they're like, oh, you don't need to include this. If you're like, well, I feel like it adds to the story, that's okay to keep, you know. It's just, it depends on what it is. And then the next thing I want to say is the essay should be overall about your journey, your creative journey, your journey as a student, whatever the case. So it's up to you how you write it and what you say. You can share personal things or academic things, whatever you feel like you want to share, but just be reminded that this is all about you. So don't just do a copy and paste of your resume, and just do something creative and different. And it's going to take a few tries, and it's going to be hard, and especially it'll be hard to listen to people's critiques, because I know I don't like having other people read my work, but it's for the best, believe me. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and let me know what you want to see from me next.